So this reversal is a little too late. Because you had already blackmailed the candidates. By you saying, okay, they should go ahead and pay the money. And they should unfreeze the account.
Just unfreeze him.
You have gone ahead to blackmail it because you have already put a toga of corruption around the candidate. It's what we call narrative building now. I've been doing this job for so many years. That's narrative building. If you go and search the search engine optimization around Osun State, you will see a freeze account and corruption allegations. Go and look at the SEO. So you've already achieved the aim. And it goes back to confirm another point that the EFCC has become political. Let's call it speed is speed. The EFCC has become political. And I'm happy you mentioned Better Edu's case. Because since Alima came on TV here and broached up that matter, it's not been revisited. Has it been revisited? No. What about other matters like that? So, and we also see a pattern. Those that you are against the government, you get docked. Some other people, their sins are forgiven. Even if the case is pressed on, it drags on in the courts. So the presidency just confirmed other things. If I ask a question and they will say, Rufai, you started again. You are grandstanding. Can we also ask, how many of such orders has the president given to the EFCC? Both in the background and in the foreground. Let me speak in defense of the president today, but I will also add the other side. The supporters of the president today will say he has done a good thing. Yes, he stepped in. In fact, I saw Babafemi Ojodu wrote an article saying, yes, he has done a good thing, that this is the second time in this week they are going to pivot. Even the bishops matter, they pivoted and all of that. Yes. In fact, to answer your question in defense of the president this morning, you were asking, he could have used more discreet means. No, he didn't probably use the discreet means because he wanted to show that he was the one defending democracy, you know. Yes, and all of that. But he just confirmed all we've always talked about. And he just confirmed the fact that a Nigerian president is so powerful, he's a monarch. No matter how you look at it, it confirms a lot this morning. And it goes back to talk about our institutions. I remind you exactly what happened when I was talking about blackmail yesterday. I don't use words loosely. Because I know they speak big English. I understand English. When I was telling Wilson Owujare yesterday that you've already achieved the aim, even if the president reverses this, they've already achieved the aim. They've already blackmailed the state government. You thought I was joking? This is exactly what happened between James Comey and Hillary Clinton, leading up to the 2016 elections, the Comey investigations. By the time he had said the investigation was going on again, he had already blackmailed the candidates. So this reversal is a little too late. Because you had already blackmailed the candidates. By you saying, okay, they should go ahead and pay the money. And they should unfreeze the account.
Just unfreeze him.
You have gone ahead to blackmail it because you have already put a toga of corruption around the candidate. It's what we call narrative building now. I've been doing this job for so many years. That's narrative building. If you go and search the search engine optimization around Osun State, you will see a freeze account and corruption allegations. Go and look at the SEO. So you've already achieved the aim. So the question is it that the EFCC does not have discretionary purpose? And that's why we say, for the sake of integrity, release the other states. Release the other states you're investigating. Because if EFCC has sweepingly mentioned many states they are investigating and the action they are taking to block the account, we will not cry foul politically. But you mentioned one particular state at a point in time. Then to now stretch it even further, when I was talking about rabbit hole, I don't use words loosely. When I was saying I led Wilson Owujare to a rabbit hole yesterday, a lot of people thought I don't know what I was saying. Dr. Abati, I put it to everybody. EFCC didn't freeze any Edo State accounts before the elections in Edo State, as it was asserted. I deliberately allowed that rabbit hole to continue. And you can please fact check me. So there was no precedence. If you wanted to argue precedence, there was no precedence to that effect. So obviously, there was something wrong in the ecosystem. And it goes back to confirm another point that the EFCC has become political. Let's call it speed is speed. The EFCC has become political. And I'm happy you mentioned Betta Edu's case. Because since Alima came on TV here and broached up that matter, it's not been revisited. Has it been revisited? No. What about other matters like that? So, and we also see a pattern. Those that you are against the government, you get docked. Some other people, their sins are forgiven. Even if the case is pressed on, it drags on in the courts. So the presidency just confirmed other things. If I ask a question now, they will say, Rufai, you started again. You are grandstanding. Can we also ask, how many of such orders has the president given to the EFCC? Both in the background and in the foreground. Because before orders can be given in the foreground, there's always an antecedence. If we want transparency in our democracy. So the president's supporters will say, he's a hero of democracy. It shows he can backtrack and everything. But this has now also opened the Pandora's box of many questions. So is it that the institutional discretion of the EFCC was so faulty? Is it that nobody in the EFCC sat down and told them the public affairs implication, the court of public opinion implication, the legal implication of what they were doing just before the election period? Is it that nobody told them? Is it that there's no second thought and an afterthought of the ecosystem and the aftermath of decisions being taken in the country? So it just confirms all we have always said. Institutions are at the mercy of the leader. And Ayo, in my last submission, I submit to you, that's why any Tom, Dick, and Harry, and any Tom, Dick, and Lagbaja wants to die to get the position of presidency in Nigeria, including Dr. Abati seated here. I lie? Because the position has immense powers. Even Ayo. Even me. Because the position has immense unchecked powers. And once one man has immense unchecked powers, democracy becomes a joke and a daylight aberration. That's the Nigerian story.
All right. Dr. Abati.
Okay, let me just isolate some of the issues with regard to the Osun matter. And I submit that the president has taken a very prudent, politically prudent decision, very responsive, and I think he has shown leadership, statesmanship, at a time when it mattered most. To the extent that by that singular action of saying the EFCC should withdraw the case it has in court, leading to the freezing of one account of belonging to Osun State government. That will restore confidence in the political process in Osun State, to the extent that the president talked about timing. And that distinction is very important. He wasn't questioning the investigative powers of the EFCC. And in that regard, nobody can say EFCC has done anything illegal. It has the powers to investigate. But the timing that the president talked about has to do with enforcement of the outcome of his own investigation. And he said, look, the timing is very wrong because you could create the wrong impression. You could give the impression that the ruling party, being in opposition with the party in power in Osun State, may be trying to influence the process. So I think that the president's action, it's a case of the president himself acting as a circuit breaker and also establishing executive responsibility. Now, how do you say that? Some people, ADC, that, this raises question about the independence of the EFCC. Well, in terms of the investigation, nobody has evidence that, the president intervened in any way. The thing to also know is that the EFCC belongs to the executive arm of government. And within the purview of Section 5 of the 1999 Constitution, all those institutions, ministries, departments, and agencies, they exercise their powers as delegated authority. And the president, as a head of state, has a responsibility, because the buck stops at his desk, to make sure that when there is likely to be anything at all within government that is going to, heat up the polity, he has a responsibility as a man at whose desk the buck stops to step in and act as a circuit breaker that I refer to. So I do not see how this raises a question about the independence of INEC, EFCC. The president is not going to say EFCC investigation will be overruled. Now, after the election, if they still find cause to return to any other thing in terms of their investigation, the institution can still return to it. So that's that about that. And this EFCC, under the current chairman, because there's also the temptation to just make a blanket statement, has no reputation, has not been known to be frivolous. However, what you can ask for is that there should be an investigation. We need to know. Because one of the allegations by the Osun State government, they specifically mentioned Minister Oyetola as the person who instigated, the tension. And Minister Oyetola has said, well, he's innocent. But can they investigate that? Is it true that somebody influenced EFCC? Is it possible for, an individual to authorize the EFCC? Those are questions that you can ask. Now, I go back to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I think, it's instructive, because when he was governor of Lagos State, he had a lot of issues with the federal government, particularly the Obasanjo administration, particularly in 2004, when the Lagos State government created 37 additional local councils. The federal government decided to freeze the account. They ended in court. And on December 10, 2004, the Supreme Court of Nigeria ruled that the federal government of Nigeria cannot freeze the account of any of the states or any part of the federation. So to that extent, President Tinubu's intervention will also seem to me like an act of self-redemption. However, in Osun State, I think it is important to say to all the players that they should play fair. They should realize that the interests of the people of Osun State is more important than any personal ambition. And that's why we've been calling for peace, fairness, a level playing field in Osun State. And I think that that is very important. Because politics is not about balance of emotions. Politics is about balance of strategies. And let the players focus on their strategies, not on violence, not on politics of hate. Now, very quickly, as for ICPC, saying that the presidency has been absolved of any guilt in the matter of a certain Adini Adeyemi Matthew. Well, I think that there are some residual issues that will need to be addressed. Number one, the same ICPC pointed out that they discovered that it was not just that Investment Promotion Council, that this particular Adeyemi also has two other agencies. One FCT Investment Promotion Agency, PIFA. He also has another one, FIPA, just playing with acronyms. He also registered vehicles with the Federal Road Safety Commission. And the ICPC was saying that the FRSC should be careful not to be registering vehicles for fake agencies. So it shows that the rot has gone so far. However, the other issue to note here is that this same Adeyemi Matthew is saying that if he's going to be interrogated by the House of Reps, he should be in open view of everybody, and that he should be televised, and that he has a lot to say. I think that he should be given every opportunity to say whatever he has to say. We, the Nigerian people, we want to hear. In fact, we want to be part of the process of the revelation. So ICPC saying, we have absorbed the presidency, that doesn't go far enough. Let us hear from Adeyemi himself in open court, in open arena. After all, they say, Audi ataram patam, thou must hear the other side. No attempt should be made to gag him. Now, as for the police and the NOA, I think it's a good development, a welcome development that the National Orientation Agency wants to work with the, the police, the Nigerian police, in the area of intelligence sharing, in terms of information and other areas of collaboration. After all, they say the police is your friend, and the police should be a friend of the National Orientation Agency. There is a lot that they can share, and we've always asked for synergy among government departments and agencies. The Inspector General of Police says the average policeman should take an interest in the making of the state police. Well, that goes without saying. But the thing again is the police, they have an advisory council. Why have you not heard from that police advisory board? Why is it that even in the presidency, all the persons that they have recruited as experts, to advise and give their own ideas in terms of the process, they are not there? So is it that they are having issues setting up a secretariat in, firming up the process, or do they have any kind of special constraints? Where there are constraints, those constraints should be addressed. As for welfare for families of policemen, well, of course, what more can we say about that? We always talk about welfare. We always talk about motivation.
All right, okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Abati Rufai.